You can look in the electrical engineering index for that period between 55 and 58.
That's a long time ago.
Yes. 57, about March, the security curtain went down. And there were, at that time, over 100 published universities and organizations, including the Gravity Research Foundation, which is still operational in Gravity Village in the United States. There were over 100 of these things operating to develop gravity, the control of it as a power source and communication and locomotion, etc. Now, in 57, the blanket went down with security, and there was no more reported news on it to say either that it was a dead-end research avenue, that everybody stopped working on it, or that it was highly successful and there had been a few breakthroughs. There was just nothing. It went quiet. Now, if you go back in the period and look, you will see that for a number of years after 57, there was no mention of this sort of research in print. Behind the scenes, there was a lot of discussion, and even MGM Studios made the movie The Forbidden Planet, revealing at that time a lot, as though it were fiction, of the technology and why it had to be covered up. Now, I think Walter Pidgeon starred in that, and he did a good job.
Prepare your minds for a new scale of physical scientific values, gentlemen. 7,800 levels.
Basically, they decided that mankind wasn't ready for it yet because he proceeded to misuse it like he had the atom of the hydrogen bomb. Now, recent evidence is very hard to get. However, in this country, a little leak occurred over here with William H. Martin in the Nation Review. May of 1973 or 4, I believe. I can't remember now. He published an article on Pine Gap and how Nixon had intended to use it in 1975 to solve the energy crisis by announcing a new method of electromagnetic propulsion, which would be based from the Pine Gap facility. Well, now, from my knowledge of the technology, what small knowledge I do have from my little viewpoint, Pine Gap has all of the inherent descriptions necessary for a high voltage, low frequency power broadcast station to broadcast electricity to various receivers like cars and submarines and aircraft that are tuned to that power station. It's just a more efficient version of the Exmouth facility here at the Northwest Cape.
So it's right here on our doorstep, is it?
Oh, yes. The big question you have to ask yourself, Guy, is why would such a thing be kept secret? I mean, people at the levels that are covering it up, I know some of them personally, and they aren't, in my opinion, villains. They're very sincere humanists. They are trying to solve planet Earth, trying to bring unity their way.
You speak of them as though they were collective rather than singular, is that right?
Yes. Dr. Keeble, as I mentioned before, in Melbourne at the Aeronautical Research Lab, tried to explain to me about they. He mentioned we as though it was they. An organization, a group of scientists, academics, industrialists. He couldn't be exact. Now, he never put a name to it, but I said, well, do you mean like a club? And he said, yes, but no. We are aware of these problems, and we're trying to solve them in the best way we know how. Granted, there are things that should be kept from the public eye until we do have some sort of a unity in the world economy. But I think the manner in which it's been gone about is most unfortunate. I would not have taken the same tack myself. The power politics involved in keeping the secrets that we now have across the planet have allowed, well, in my opinion, groups that aren't capable of handling control of the planet to take power.
So what basically you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that we've got a situation where you maintain various countries have perhaps a top-level intelligentsia who are in possession of a common set of facts which transpose country boundaries now, and it's a worldwide sort of thing.
In Russia, involved in this would be the Russian physicist who's been in the news recently with the civil rights movements, Dr. Andrei Sakharov. Also in his country, an ex-KGB agent, some 25 years, but a physicist, and a former hydrogen bomb project development engineer, physicist, is Dr. Bruno Pontecorvo, working on gravitic engines in Siberia. As I told you, in the States, it was Dr. Teller and affiliates there. I don't know all of their names. But these people have all been working together as scientists who go above governments. And look, they're sincere. I can't blame them for doing this. It's just that they have lost control of what they tried to set up.
Has that association got a name?
I don't think so. When I worked with the FBI, there was a political and financial institution that I was ordered to investigate with many other agents, and it was called the Illuminati, which is a general term meaning the enlightened or the wise ones. The investigation, this led me to the Council on Foreign Relations and to the Club of Rome, which are linked by joint directorships under Carol Wilson. This is again another tale, but you put yourself in the scientist's position in the mid-50s. What you see is that you've got a technology that, if announced to the public, would cause mass reactions in the economy, in social moves, in cultural reactions that could probably bring about the demise of the whole human civilization. A simple example would be this. As a scientist, you come out in the mid-50s and you say, we have a process which will allow us to get rid of tires, allow us to get rid of the petrol engine, hence the petrol, hence all the dependent industries. It'll be available for you in 24 months' time. It'll only cost you $3,000 or $4,000. Now, what guy in his right mind would buy a new petrol engine car if he could have one of those new ones in 2 years that don't need roads and run on electricity and no petrol necessary? They'd all stop their buying trends, which would then collapse the economies that would be building the other one in 24 months. If you had a central world authority like Dr. Pache's Club of Rome group want, then if you announced, when you controlled all the nations and the economies, if you announced and said, we've got a new car that does this, nobody would panic because they know that if their industry became redundant, they would be retrained and paid while they're doing it in some other support industry. We don't have that facility on the planet at the moment because we're greatly disordered and many of the cultures fight against each other. Scientists, industrialists, engineers found this problem in the mid-50s. Now, we're playing their part. So we sit here and we say, how do we get world unity? The United Nations, the League of Nations had failed. You couldn't get any 2 or 3 of them to agree to turn their sovereignty over to a third party. You couldn't come out and field an army from the United Nations or League of Nations or anywhere, even a corporate army, and tell the people of Earth you're taking over, as some people have suggested the multinationals might do. You can't do that because the mass resistance would be worse than the French resistance to Hitler.